Hi, everybody, and welcome to a very special extra stream for the week from the Untold Stories Project. We're going to be talking about GM prep with Will, the keeper of our new Monster of the Week game that's going to be premiering on Cinco de Mayo this year. So, yeah, he's going to be taking my Fallout slot. I'll be sad, but that's okay. It's for the best.
I'm very excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope everybody else is excited. Come take this ride with us. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to have Monster of the Week on the channel. You know, our mission here at the Untold Stories Project is to showcase RPGs that don't necessarily get the media attention or the affection that we think that they deserve compared to something like D&D or Pathfinder, big games that have $1 million marketing budgets and voice actors playing to audiences of tens of thousands every week. But Will, why don't you tell us a little bit about Monster of the Week and what your sort of plans are and what we're calling the stream?
Yeah. So Monster of the Week is the game that the system that we'll be playing. It's done by Evil Hat Productions. So there are not very many people out there playing it, at least live streamed or in podcasts. So if you've heard about Evil Hat, that's awesome. If you haven't, check out their stuff. A lot of their information about this game even is going to be uh, in their resources tab on their website. So you can check out a lot of their stuff. It's really accessible. It's really easy to play. Uh, what else can I tell you about it? It's just 2d6 and your character sheet. So that is something that immediately spoke to me as somebody who is not. Um, I don't have millions of dice, and I don't I'm learning a lot about mechanics of other games, but this one has kind of less. It's a little bit more focused on story. It's a little bit focused more on character. It's a lot less mechanics and numbers and math and all of those things uh, that I told my eighth grade math teacher I would never ever need again, and now I find myself doing weekly in front of all of you. So
Why am I
I
doing math
that's
for fun?
right.
Who
Like,
tricked
how
me?
did we how did we end up being here? But I love math too, and that's fun. But this stream is not that. So if you are less inclined to think about mechanics of games, if you're less inclined to want to add, you know, 35d10 of damage for when you're casting whatever you're casting or you're, doing whatever, this game is probably going to be right up your alley. What else can I tell you about it? It is structurally, it's serial, it's procedural, so it's based on the idea of the monster of the week shows that you would see. So, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer fits in that category. Supernatural, the X Files. Essentially, you're going to one place where there's one bad guy that's not related to any of the others, and every week you're defeating one, and then you're moving on to the next. So, uh, you know, Alex, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of the shows that we've done so far have been the season is an entire arc, it's an entire plot, um, and one episode leads into the other as we kind of build this. The beauty about this game is, you can kind of hop in whenever. Our
Mm-hmm.
characters can be pretty flexible. Where they go can be really flexible. The story itself is really flexible, right? So I love that versatility in this game. You can kind of do what you want, be where you want, um, and that's something that's really interesting to me. So it's going to be a lot of work on our characters as opposed to on plot, which is just another way to tell a story. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited to try and be doing that.
Yeah, and plus, when you're doing something episodic like that, you can do whatever cool thing pops up into your head and not have to worry about building up to it. So, like, if you have an idea in the middle of the week when you're doing your adventure prep, you could be like, oh, I want them to go to an ice cream factory this week, and I want them to deal with the abominable snowman or whatever. You could do that the next week. You don't have to say, okay, so they're already at this part of the story. How do I lay the bricks to get them to that part of the story in a way that's natural and not like we're doing this because I wanted to this week, sort of thing. Which I think is a lot of fun as a GM. Um, that flexibility is very enticing. It's one thing that I don't do super well on my own, because I like to have these big, well thought out outlines, and I like to know where I'm going and what I'm sort of building to, which isn't always the best experience for players. I mean, there are some players who are interested in, I want to go do this week because that's what I feel like doing. And if that's not what's written in my outline, sometimes I have trouble steering them that way and steering them back to where they want it to go. So I'm excited to see how you tackle a new monster every week and all that fun
He's
stuff.
speaking very vaguely, but I'm one of those people that often I feel like changes his plans on him last minute. So sorry about that. Yeah,
It
I
is
know
a
that
it
I
is a
do that.
universal issue with the Untold Stories project. Don't worry, it's a me problem. It's not a player problem.
Well, and I was gonna say too, it's not exclusive to you. So I am someone too who very much likes control, and I like to be organized, and I like to know what's going to happen next. So I'm excited to take this journey very publicly in front of everybody, in some self learning about how to be a little bit better at improv and how to take um, other people's asks and make them possible. And I think that's part of why we're chatting tonight too, is because the beauty of a game like this is it's so collaborative that we are able to ask you guys as an audience what you want to see too. So, you know, it, it's not such a plot driven thing that I have to spell it all out. And if you as the audience want to see certain monsters, or you want to see certain types of characters or certain locations, this is a perfect game for you to tell us, hey, that's what we want to see. And then for me to be able to say, okay, so this week we're going to Alaska, or this week we're fighting vampires, or, uh, and having that input from you guys and knowing what you want to see is going to be ultimately, um, it's going to make for something better than what I can do in the vacuum of just my mind. So,
Are you
um,
what's the sort of mystery machine the heroes are going to have? How are they getting around?
yeah, that's a good question. I'm open to any suggestions. So chat, let us know what you want that vehicle to be. I thought it would be fun to maybe make them first have to take public transportation until they get to like a certain point of, um, I just saw the chat and vampires at the Cheesecake Factory. Sounds like a lot of fun. But I think it would be kind of funny to make them start off, you know, in a situation where they don't have all the funds, they don't have all of the
Mm-hmm.
weapons readily available. You know, there's not really levels in this game, so it's hard to kind of um, make character advancement through experience, or that there is an experience element to the game, but it's not like you start at level 1 and you end at level, 30 or 40. It's more like you're learning as you're going. And so trying to be able to find ways to show that progression is kind of more at the keeper's discretion than it is in the mechanics of the game. Um,
I'm just picturing the
so
Greyhound gang now, where they have to take a bus everywhere they want to go.
yeah, I mean, you've got, so we're starting in New York City. That's kind of where the headquarters is, and they'll go wherever they need to go. But nobody's got a private jet. So if you've got to go to, um, you know, Topeka, Kansas, how are you going to get there? Uh, do I give them that jet right off the bat? I would think it would be better to say, yeah, take a Greyhound, or
Yeah,
um, at least for the first few episodes, until they realize that they got to go lots of places, and then we can find uh, we can find new unique ways to build their transportation kind of ranks as we go.
yeah. Well, the just because there's a secret society that's their benefactor doesn't mean they get access to all the toys right out the get go. The
Sure.
first the first few episodes could just be their like initiation or their test to see if they're worthy to be part of the order. That's
Absolutely.
always a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
And I've got a lot of those ideas kind of circling around in my head. I probably should take us back just a minute and say the concept for the game that we're actually running, uh, is right now, it's called Order of the Penrose Triangle, and it is a bunch of New York City residents that stumble into the basement of the Olive Garden in Times Square, and they discover a secret kind of organization that is there to hunt monsters, so monster slayers. Uh, and they kind of get inducted into this group, and every week they go out and find something, and they take care of it, and however they take care of it is kind of up to them. So that's super exciting to me. You know, it's a little bit fun, it's a little bit campy. At least that's the idea for right now.
Yeah, some really good like urban fantasy, just kids having fun fighting monsters, which we love that. Um, we haven't really had anything super like that yet on the channel. I mean, we did have East Texas University, but even that was sort of contained to the college campus that we were on, and it was one story that we were building towards. Um, so I'm interested to see that sort of campy idea taken out throughout the world and having sort of the fun new ideas each week and the new things bouncing off of each other. I forgot to mention everybody. This is actually going to be Will's first GM, like long term GMing. I know you've run this game once or twice before. Is that right?
Yeah, I ran it once as a one shot for a birthday. So I know the game as both a keeper and a player, but when I say I know it as a keeper, I say that with like a big asterisk next to it. But you know, we're here to tell really great stories, and we're here to have a lot of fun. And I feel confident being able to do that, and kind of steering that ride for everybody. So I'm really excited about it. But yes, I am new, so be kind.
Will is a keeper. Jonesy's right.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet to say.
um, no, I have no doubt that you're going to do a great job. It's
Yeah.
the hard the hardest part is being enthusiastic, and you have that enthusiasm that players will be able to feed off of, and that's the most important thing I think as a GM is your players will give you what you give them. In my experience, if you show up and you're energetic and you're excited about what's going on, they'll get invested too. And if you show up and you're a little low energy, you're not you're not putting in as much effort as you usually do, the players pick up on that and they give you in return. It's sort of a transference of energy.
Well, I do have energy in spades, so sometimes I think I might be a little too energetic. But I am excited about, yeah, I think the group of players that we have are really amazing. I'm not going to talk too much about them on this stream because I want to save that for closer to our. We're still kind of in the back end, percolating on fleshing out some of the character stuff. So I don't want to talk too much about them. I'd rather they talk about it when we see them. Um, but we've got really great people. We've got really great, ideas. I'm super grateful to have you to kind of bounce things off of as I need. Um, and if I'm the weak link in this group, then I feel pretty confident about that. So,
Well, I can attest that the players that we have gathered are some USP alumni, and there are some newcomers to USP. So I'm very excited to have everybody sort of together, mashing energies up. I think that I don't know. I love seeing new groups come together and figuring out the chemistry of the players all with each other. And I think with a system like this, where it's very rules light, we're free to act as the character we want to be, and not worry too much about okay, how many spell slots do I have, or how much do I have room for 45 pounds of ball bearings, or whatever you want to get involved in. I think that's really going to give this group of people a chance to shine and to really make an interesting and exciting game especially for you guys at home.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're great humans. They tell really wonderful stories, and they're all very different from each other too. So I love the energies that they give each other and what they're able to kind of pick up and play with, even in just the chats that we've had and not really in game yet. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about the concept. I think it's something that's more unique. Um, yeah, they are great humans. I'm not convinced that one isn't a synth, but I think that's just Alex in the Fallout game. Now everybody I think
Everyone's
might be
a
a
synth.
synth. Yeah. So but yeah, I'm really excited about it. We've got a lot of passion, we've got a lot of energy behind it, and it's just gonna be It's just going to be really great. And I think it's going to be pretty different from the other things that we've seen at USP. So if you're looking for something that's a different flavor, it's got all of us who are really great and who you can trust to make a really good story, but it's going to be in a kind of a different avenue.
Yeah, and this is Will's show. Will's doing his thing. I will be there to consult and to offer insight as I can, but Will is on his own in the deep end.
Yeah. If it's bad, you get to blame me. If it's good, I'll give you the credit because you're helping me out a lot. So
No, unacceptable. You have to take all the credit that you get.
okay, great.
So I
Sounds
say,
good. What
mostly
else
because I
can
don't know how to take a compliment either.
Yeah, I am notoriously bad at that. So thank you for the kind words in the chat, but I'm ignoring them from now on. um, I'm not. I already wrote down Vampires at the Cheesecake Factory, so be on the lookout for that.
I'm just
Um,
imagining like a middle manager vampire at the Cheesecake Factory who's got beef with the Olive Garden across the street because of all the garlic breadsticks that they pass out.
yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking along the veins too of like middle management, but has been there for 300 years because they're immortal, and that's just like as far as they can go up the chain. They keep going for that promotion, and they just keep getting passed over. So,
The CEO of Cheesecake Factory is just a vampire keeping all the other vampires down.
uh,
I don't want to run this Cheesecake Factory anymore.
I will say I'm much worse than you at accents, so I would not expect any kind of dialect work from me. I'm floored at people who have brilliant voices. That won't be my GM style. I'll leave that up to the theater of your mind. So
Hey, I think there is wisdom in admitting that because I think some GMs get caught up on the idea that you have to have an accent for every character. And I think it distracts them from making good characters instead of making good voices. So,
sure. Well, I mean, we talk to so many people in a day, just in our regular lives, and not all of them have crazy dialects. And I
especially
think
not in
that
Central Ohio.
sure, yes, yeah, being Columbus based, it might be very different if you're living in New York City, but I don't expect me to try and be. We've all seen the ones that are, there are very famous voice actors who do what we're doing, and that's their style, is to have 17 different NPCs in a game that all have different voices, and they're all beautiful, and kudos to them. I respect it. I love watching it. It's not going to be me. We all have different GM styles, and that's not mine. So, yeah, I'm excited though for. I'm just reading in the chats now. So we have the crocodile in the sewers rumor. Um, I'm playing heavily on this because I will tell you that one of our characters is looking at. There's a certain archetype that you can play as that's called monstrous, and they're thinking about being like a sewer alligator that now is hunting monsters instead. So I'll leave that as kind of a I think that there's something that we can play with in there,
Mm-hmm.
that can kind of tie in their backstory and their history into what they're doing. But that one is, I think that's Andy, right? Who said that? Yeah.
Yep.
That one is already percolating with us. And that's kind of too in the vein of what I'm looking at doing. We're trying to look at mostly American urban legends. That's kind of the vein that I've been doing a lot of research in. So obviously, if we want to hit the vampires, the werewolves, the big ones, we can do that too. But I've been looking at like the Hook Man and Bloody Mary and um, the Yeti and those kind of things that also don't get the love that werewolves and zombies and vampires and that kind of stuff.
I have an annoying player scenario to pitch your way. Okay, so imagine you're dealing with Bloody Mary and they know about the legend of Bloody Mary. What do you do if the players decide that they're going to take a car through a tunnel and say Bloody Mary's name in the rearview mirror 3 times and try to watch her run to catch up with the car.
Well, it's an interesting, like, where does she appear?
Mm-hmm.
Because if she's behind you, are you saying like the rear view mirror, like the side mirror?
Yeah, where she's like,
Yeah, because I would probably be like, oh, if I'm looking in the rear view mirror,
she's in
she's
the
in the
back
back
seat.
seat.
That'd be
Um,
way worse.
yes, yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think there are definitely cool things that you can do because having her outside the car, you know, what does she do? Is she there's that myth is so interesting, right? And there's so many
Mm-hmm.
different versions to tell on it. Uh, I would probably change that into something like, well, now you've released her, and until she kills, she's not, you know, until she kills her intended target, she's out of the mirror.
She's just out
And
there.
then
Yeah.
I would have her like go through the town killing people until you take care of her. Um, because if you just summon her and run away, I mean, I guess that's one way to try to solve the problem, but there are also, and the book, I have the Monster of the Week book. It's
Mm.
lovely. It kind of talks you through sometimes when characters are too clever, how to get around some of that.
Oh, I need a
Um,
handbook for that for every system. That should be just the general. That should be a whole book by itself.
hey, if any, I mean, there's definitely money in a series like that. I would watch that over and over again.
What do you do when your
Um,
players are smarter than you?
well,
Step
I
one:
would never.
admitting that they're smarter than you.
I mean, anyone, all of my players are smarter than me. So I take that as, they're going to come up with some really crazy scenarios. And a lot of, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of GMing is being trying to trying to prepare yourself for whatever shenanigans your players might be doing to your story. Um, and so, yeah, you always have moments where uh, a player will think of something really brilliant, and how do you how do you reward them for being smart
Mm-hmm.
without derailing the story? I think is a challenge for sure, but it's something that I'm trying to prepare myself for as best as I can. So
It's a lot of going to the bathroom and banging your head on the wall.
yeah, we might have two breaks a night,
Just,
depending on if I need a moment to think and catch up.
I'm trying, but they keep testing me. GM God, trying to walk the straight and narrow.
Uh,
Um, Yeah, are you planning? So I know you were mentioning the idea that they get access to more transportation methods as the story goes on. Are you picturing like the first couple of episodes maybe take place with just like New York urban legends?
Yeah, I was thinking, I really want to focus on the entirety of America,
Mm-hmm.
and if this really takes off and we have multiple seasons, then we could look at international kind of stuff too. But I think I want to start in the U.S. Because it's something that I know, and you want to build things that, especially in the real world, you want to make them feel believable. So. And I grew up in 5 different states, and I feel pretty confident in at least kind of the east of the Mississippi, U.S. So I can show a lot of that. Um, but I think it's a great opportunity to kind of show our country and show multiple different spots um, and kind of diverse people and diverse thinking. And I really want to be able to showcase the things about the places that the places in America that are awesome. So yeah, we'll probably start in New York City, but if you've got something in Wyoming that's really cool, then like tell me about it in the chat because I don't know much about Wyoming, and then we'll find a way to get that in there. But
Mothman. I
yeah,
love Mothman.
I mean, Mothman is on my list. So
Awesome.
I got Jersey Devil. I saw that over in the chat. Any plans for the Fae? I was not thinking about the Fae at this point, so um, I can write it down. The Fae is I don't know much about the Fae, so that's a lot of research that I would have to get into. Um, but I'm happy to look into it. Um, Sorry, Mothman. Yeah. So I'm super open to anything, with the acknowledgement that I really just want to show as many types of people as I can. I want to show this game is so like character driven and so character based that I really want to be able to show a breadth of humans, uh, and and what they're working on and what their lives look like. And um, I don't want to just make New York City a better place. I want to make the world a better place in
Yeah,
the story.
that's awesome. How so I know you're planning on using a lot of different locations across the country. How do you start making something normal interesting as a storyteller? Like, because a lot of the stories we've told before take place in alternate universes, or in weird other sort of countries and worlds and stuff like that. How do you take something as normal as like a cheesecake factory and make it like a scary place to tell a story? And how scary are you planning on telling?
Sure. I will actually tackle the second question first, because I think it feeds into the first question. I don't want to go super scary. I want this to be um, a step greater than Scooby Doo, I think is kind of what we're chatting about. You know, we want to be able to sleep at night. We want to be able to uh, there will be definite horror elements to it. There will definitely be scary elements to it, but I think we want to tackle it with a sense of humor. We want to tackle it with a sense of joy and whimsy, and uh, those are the types of horror movies that speak most to me. Those are the types of stories that I would rather tell, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like Scooby Doo
and
on Zombie Island.
yeah,
That's
I
like
mean,
Scooby Doo plus one, right?
sure, yes, yeah. I don't imagine it going to. We're not gonna it's not going to go to like the Saw world. It's not going to go to like the um and I think you see that in a lot of the shows that this is based on, right? Buffy has definite scary moments to it, but it's through a lens of humor and it's through a lens of um accessibility. We want
Mm-hmm.
stories to be for everybody. We want games to be for everybody. So the content should kind of reflect that. Um, I'm not saying that you necessarily want an 8-year-old to be like learning about Bloody Mary, but having said that, when we do it, we want it to have the kind of reverence to if you're watching that kind of TV show, if you're watching the Bloody Mary episode of Supernatural, it's not going to be, it'll be somewhere between that and Scooby Doo,
Awesome.
which, that's a pretty big gap. Supernatural could be a little bit scary, but we want to make it so that everybody has a chance to enjoy themselves in that. And I think that there is just as much in a story that is made for the 10 plus age group as there is for the 19 and plus age group. You can get just as much out of both stories. So for this one especially, I want it to be something that everybody feels like they can be a part of. And then to answer your first question, how to make something that seems a little bit mundane interesting, I think is a challenge, but I think the answer is all in like the specificity, right? So if you if you are you mentioned like the Cheesecake Factory, I would find really interesting ways um, to talk about their unique sense of architecture on the inside of the Cheesecake Factory. I know we said vampires and Cheesecake Factory, but I might go more aliens
Mm.
for Cheesecake Factory specifically because it's not quite Egyptian, it's not quite hieroglyphics, but it has that kind of feel to
It's
it. So
close.
you've got like, yeah, you've got those like runes that you can kind of play with. Is this a language? Is this what's happening? So my Cheesecake Factory might look just a little bit different. Um, and then I would have my players, kind of investigate how that architecture looks a little bit different. They discover it's aliens and be working on how to discover who the aliens are and deal with the aliens.
What
Um,
do the aliens want? Like, why are they serving the humans mid-grade cheesecake.
Yeah, well, and it might be like this is a franchise of the Cheesecake Factory, and there's a string of illnesses that are happening after people eat there because the cheesecake isn't really cheesecake, it's some like alien.
Mutagenic paste.
Yeah, so they're trying to recreate our food, and eventually it'll brainwash everybody into, you know, that's kind of the direction. And I'm thinking on my feet here, so it would have to be fleshed out a lot more than that. But it's kind of taking the specifics of whatever mundane thing you're looking at, and then kind of, tweak one thing, tweak two things, and all of a sudden, I think there's a real beauty in specifics. So finding two or three specifics to change can give you those clues to how everything will flesh out. And then, add an extra two or three clues for your players in case they miss the one or two that you initially have.
Yeah. Or if they decide something is a clue that was never a clue, and then you just have to say, "Yep, that was a clue the whole time," and change the plot
Yeah.
as you're going. I've definitely been there before. Are you thinking of tackling ghost stories?
Ghosts are definitely in. So I again, ghosts, there's a huge range of how ghosts work, what ghosts are. Um, is there a corporeal ghost that exists, or is it all kind of like you never see the ghost, it's invisible, but it's doing things to spaces? I'm trying to think of clever ways to use ghosts in multiple ways. So, um, yeah, I'm definitely interested um, in kind of how that works. If you guys in the chat have ideas, throw them my way. I Haunted houses, I'm in. I'm The very first episode that I was looking at was a haunted theater. Um, for those of you who don't know, I have a theater background. That's kind of where I come from. So I was like, write what you know, do something, that's a little bit in your wheelhouse first. So I had something that was kind of like a haunted theater. Not sure that it's going to make it. I've got, lots of different ideas, and I want to include what everybody else wants. But
Well, theaters are just one of the most superstitious places around. Generally speaking, every acting troupe has its own like. All right, don't say the Scottish play's name out loud. Don't
sure.
you know stamp left and spin around 3 times. We're gonna have a great show, or we're gonna have a bad dress rehearsal, so we're gonna have a good show. Just those sort of like metaphysical things that they will into existence. I think.
Sure. Well, I mean, I will say this as an actor. I think that actors consistently put a lot of the praise or rejection that they receive on external circumstances. So, I think it's very easy to build kind of that superstitious attitude when you're in a theater because, if something goes really great, like thank the Lord, thank the ghosts, thank whatever you need to thank. If something goes wrong, if you forget words, you
That's
were
your fault.
possessed for a minute. So I totally understand that, and yeah, I mean theaters are a super. You've got costumes that have been handed down and have been existing for hundreds of years. So and props, and anytime that you are in a position to wear someone else's clothes and pretend to be something that you're not for any given amount of time, I think that adds an element of, it's very easy to turn that into a superstitious, paranormal, uh, even creature like kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but haunted houses are truly terrifying to me. I've only been to like two or three of them in my life, but I think that they're really cool. I definitely want one somewhere. It's just such a classic,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was reading it, it seems pretty like the American haunted house is very different than any other haunted house that exists in the world. Um, the way that we kind of view them and deal with them and talk about them. So to kind of be able to showcase that, might be really cool if and when we would do something international to kind of
Mm.
juxtapose. So
Yeah, and that introduces a new wrinkle as a storyteller, for what you're looking at, because at that point you start looking at a location based adventure instead of a creature driven adventure. So it's not so much the plot. It's not so much, okay, the heroes do this, and then the creature does this, and then the heroes do this. It's the heroes go to this haunted house and they experience everything that's happening inside the house. You know, you sort of have a floor plan for them, and you have ideas of what happens in each area of the house, but you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. So building that tension falls on you as a descriptor, as a storyteller. So how do you sort of tackle that idea?
uh I cheat and I my favorite board game is Betrayal on House on the Hill, if you're familiar with that
That's a
one.
great game.
Yeah. It's a wonderful game. We are not sponsored by them,
I
so
bet you love it when you wind up as the betrayer.
I try so hard every game. Uh, I I love a challenge, and I think those are super challenging. Um, yeah, I love that game. I can't talk about it enough, but that's probably for a different episode of you and I chatting. But I would probably go to that book as a lot of source material,
Mm-hmm.
because things are so variable there too, and it's all about what the house looks like, and you can very easily build a board and then say, like, flip to a random page and say this is the scenario that we've got. um,
Oh yeah.
and so for a haunted house, if it were the first time that I were running a haunted house, which that would be in my case, I would look to that. I would look to uh, haunted houses that we see in media. So the first season of American Horror Story. I would look to, um, the Scooby Doo episodes where they're in haunted houses. I would probably look up a lot of them that exist. I see Jonesy here wrote about the famous one in San Diego, so I would be able to kind of look up all those. Obviously, there's the huge murder hotel in Chicago, so the Devil in the White City and all of that information. But I would use that as a lot of source material and then kind of work my way through that.
Yeah, you seem to know this already, but one of my favorite pieces of GM advice is nobody cares if you borrow stuff from other source material and you just file the serial numbers off. Most of the times, players won't even notice, unless it's something that you're all very intimately familiar with. But even then, there's a reason you all like that kind of story, so it's okay with them that you're borrowing elements from stuff that you know you already enjoy and stuff that they already enjoy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about having fun. It's just about telling a fun story with your friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it might be that I have an acting background and nothing is unique anymore in kind of any form of that media. But I'm not afraid to lightly borrow people's ideas, especially if, you're throwing in, I would say definitely throw in multiple sources and definitely have, don't just take someone's one idea. You've got to sprinkle in what you love, and that kind of shows you as a person, and it shows you as a GM, and it shows, ultimately a very different story because you've got all of your players with different ideas and different characters. You've got all of this support in source work, but you've also got the layer of like you on top of all of that. So I don't stress about it being too akin to a story that might already exist because there are too many other variables that exist out there to change that up.
Yeah, and nobody gets mad about it. Well,
Yeah.
nobody who's experienced gets mad about it. Some inexperienced people are like, "You stole that idea."
Well, and the other thing too is this is such a collaborative thing, right? And even in our prep for our sessions, we have to acknowledge that, like, we're building things that people want to see, and we're looking to what has existed in the past, and we're looking to how to put spins and creative, our creative stamp on that thing. But ultimately, it's, a story is, um, it's going to have elements that kind of match other things. That it's not going to be and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there is something that is out there that is completely unique that nobody has ever thought of. Um, but that's also not what Monster of the Week is, right? That
Right.
it's designed for us to be, one week it's a Yeti because we know what a Yeti is. I don't have the time in one episode to create a new monster, show you a new monster, have you learn everything there is to know about it so you know how to beat it, and then have you actually beat it. You know, if you didn't know what a werewolf was and that a silver bullet would take it out, then that's another 3 hours of a stream where you have
Mm-hmm.
to, first fight the monster, lose to it because you're not using the right thing, then go away and learn about it, and then come back and fight it all over again. Uh, and we don't have time for that in a 3 hour stream. So, um, there will be elements of that for certain things, because who really knows how to beat the Mothman? But,
Just all those
but
people playing Fallout 76. They're the only ones who know.
I mean, yeah. So there will be an element to that, but it won't be every single week. You have to. I have to come up with a new monster and all of the lore that goes behind that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a reasonable expectation on our players or on our audience.
Yeah, and it's not that kind of game. I mean, like you said, Monster of the
Yeah,
Week is based on a trope. Like, it's based on a TV trope. So it leans into that for the fun, I think, for a lot of people. Because, you're not getting bogged down in mythology or anything. Like, you're not there to dissect the monsters and learn about the monsters. You're there to fight a different monster every week. And I think there's a lot of fun in sort of uncovering the monster's weaknesses and stuff like that. But if you have to do that every week, I think it would get draining. Like, you never feel like your characters know what they're doing, even though they're supposed to be these badass monster hunters.
sure. Yeah. I mean, they have to have some experience, or they wouldn't be there, or they would have gotten eaten by, Godzilla before they ultimately beat him.
Is Godzilla going to be in your story?
I don't know. I actually, so for those of you who don't know, I turned 30 this week. I am, as part of my birthday weekend, I am going to go see Kong versus Godzilla. I'm very excited about it. I'll be doing that tomorrow.
Nice.
So no spoilers in the chat for that, please, because I have been bad and haven't been able to see it yet. But yeah, he's just been on my mind because I'm pumped for that movie. Also, we're not sponsored by them, but check them out.
But Godzilla's always on my mind. He's always occupying some
Are you
space.
Team Godzilla or
I
are you
am
Team
Team
Kong?
Godzilla.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We can argue about it if you want, Will, but
No, I haven't seen a ton of the movies, so it's not fair for me to really. I'm kind of going in just hoping to have a good time.
I will say you have a
But
good time.
yeah, I like primates, so right now I'm more in Team Kong, but I think that's just because monkeys are cool.
I will
Not that
say
lizards aren't, but
I think we're supposed to root for King Kong because he's an ape and we're apes, but I'm Team Reptile all the way.
hey, I mean, I think everybody has a right to pick their team, so I fully support you, and I'm yeah, I'm happy with whoever wins as long as a good story happens.
As long as
So
we have fun. I know 1991 was a great year for gaming. They didn't even know it yet.
yeah, 91 is where it's at. We're both Aries. We both it was like what, 3 days? We're separated by 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So uh
Calvin's birthday was this week too, but I don't know if Calvin's 30 or not.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we had a very birthday Fallout stream, and a lot happened in that Fallout stream. That was a very good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I had everything all thought out, and then you threw some stuff in that made me less less I don't even know how to say it. I feel less intelligent than I did going into that stream. I thought I
That's
had
not
all
good.
the answers. Oh, no, no, no. I think it's a testament to your ability to tell us, you do a really great job of leading us down one path and then um, you know kind of pulling the rug out from under us in certain places. So I always have a great time because I always think I know what's going on and then something else happens. So
I call that 2x4 storytelling.
I I call it a lot of fun. So
You guys
I
are
have a really
walking
great
down a
time.
certain path, and then I hit you in the head with a 2x4. And
I
it changes
mean,
directions for everybody.
it is a blast. I was pleasantly surprised by that last. I thought it was just going to be a huge fight, and that that would kind of be the end of it. But there was a lot of really really great role play in there too, and we did some really great stuff. So
We almost everybody cried. I was tearing up. I couldn't get through that last scene.
oh yeah, yeah, that
It's
was
brutal.
fun. I had a really good time, and not to make this about Fallout for a minute, but that I was nervous because this has pretty much been my first time um, on a long show, you know, with USP. So of course you guys had seen me in the one shots before, but when I started Fallout, I was like, oh, I built a character that, you know, is pretty much he's the tank, he's the combat element of this stream, and I won't get to show what I really love as a player, which is kind of, you know, character and moments. So it's been important to me throughout the stream as a player to kind of sprinkle in little elements of character and not just like smashing people over the head. Um, so that was really cool for me in the last episode to be able to do something that was a little bit unlike my character, but you know, I think still fit the story and kind of put a good cap on that one.
Yeah, do you have an idea of what your players are looking for in Monster of the Week and how you plan on encouraging them to sprinkle some of that in, just in addition to whatever you're planning storyline wise?
Yeah, I think the big word is whimsy, right? I think we want to have, you know, knowing that we're going into a horror story. I think at first we said you ask the obvious questions, right? You ask like, what do you want to see? What do you not want to see? Um, I think we're gonna try and steer away from things that are triggery, things that are, you know, mental health oriented. That's I think there's a place for that, and I think mental health is important, and we should be talking about it. Uh, it's not the flavor that we want to have for this
Mm-hmm.
stream necessarily, and it's not what Scooby Doo would do, right? So like, you know, I think keeping things light, I think keeping things fun, um, is a really great juxtaposition to some of the content that kind of exists out there, especially in this game. So even the games that you might see other streamers do on this game or on this system, I think can be a little bit heavy sometimes. It's really important for me to keep that light, keep it fun, um, and keep it a story that that people are really interested in and that moves in the way that I think this is best, which is just, you know, clippy and breezy. And um, I hope that kind of helps to answer
Mm-hmm.
without giving too much away in terms of content and their characters, especially. I want to
Yeah, and
keep
well,
that
that's
alone.
that's one of the hardest parts about writing horror stories is, especially as an interactive story where people have to get involved and they have to continue pursuing stuff in order to make the story happen. Like when you're playing a horror video game, you can't just close your eyes and wait for it to end like you can a scary movie because it requires you to keep playing. The challenge, I think, from a storytelling perspective, is coming up with a world that they care about saving. So, what is exciting to the players? What makes them happy about the world that they're living in? To juxtapose against, okay, this horrible thing has just happened, and if it's all horrible things, why do we keep fighting? What do we care about? I think that's, and I think whimsy is a good word for that. I think there is a chance for you to lean into, oh, I mean, this is a monster, but it's a funny monster, or it's a monster in a situation that you wouldn't expect to see them in, and that can relieve some of the tension of what's happening in the story a lot of the time. Like
Sure,
putting werewolves in a Waffle House, or putting vampires in a Cheesecake Factory.
absolutely. And I think that, you know, we've done that in the past with our, like you'll ask us for like a knife, right? When we build characters so that you know what we care about. Um, and you know, in Fallout, I gave you like I have a sister and she's lovely and she's the thing that I care about. Um, in in this, I didn't ask that
Your
question
brother,
because
you do not care about.
yeah, my brother, I told him I'd kill him if I saw him, and then I pretty much did. So, um, but yeah, I think that works for something where you have a huge arc over multiple episodes to do that with. I'm not really going to be able to, because we're traveling to different locations every week, uh, because we're all such different characters as, and when I say we, I mean my players.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot of. I might be able to like get to one of my players' houses so that they can see their family and there's a monster in their hometown or something like that. But I won't necessarily be able to do that for everybody. So I think like what I'm trying to do is come up with really random places and really random monsters and kind of get a wheel together with like a randomizer that'll tell me this week it's uh, Yetis in the last blockbuster on Earth, or
Oh no.
and so right. So you get like the random element of it, and then it's like a chopped basket if you watch the Food Network. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you never know what you're gonna get, and it's my job to kind of put those pieces together. That's kind of fun for me. Um, and I think it'll be fun for the players and ultimately should tell a wacky story that is interesting and unique and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. So, do you want to take some ideas of locations and monsters to write down, or NPCs even from the chat?
Absolutely. I want everything. I want monsters. I want places. I want NPCs. If you think that there's something in there that is just like a type of person that you want to see on the stream, um, yeah, because that way I know that it's something that you're interested in as an audience, but it is also something that I don't have to do on my own. So,
Hey, I love this idea.
TV TV personality monsters, okay? Or monster hunters, sorry. That makes a whole lot of sense. So you mean like the people that'll go to investigate,
Yeah, like
but
on the travel network
like
where they,
debunk it? Yeah,
yeah, they go in overnight with their blackout cameras and they yell a lot.
I like that.
They always have a guy who's super cocky as the leader of the group. Alternatively,
Yeah,
I have an NPC that I would like to
okay.
see. Um, a a group of people who do live stream exorcisms, but it's all fake until it's not. So a guy
I
who
love that.
poses as a priest or whatever, and the Twitch person behind the scenes who runs the cameras and runs everything, and the actress they hired to act possessed for their exorcism live stream.
I love that idea.
I can't take full
And
credit for it. I saw a movie with a similar idea, and I was like, I love this idea, and I want to tell a story with it.
yeah, I mean, I think that that's a lot of fun because you've got people there that you have to save too, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
got like, and again, speaking to like what's worth saving, then you have immediately innocent people who could very well be in the position that you are,
Mm-hmm.
but super unprepared for it.
Yeah. And you get to ask the question: why is the demon messing with this live stream? Is it just because they're lying about being exorcists, or does it have a mass media agenda where it's trying to get seen by as many people as possible? There's a lot of stuff that you can work with in that, I think.
Sure. And I think that's something too that I keep playing with is, um, do I want to play with the humanity of monsters too? And do I want to make them, I think I mentioned that I have a character who is a monster build in this, a player who's playing as a monster. And so at what point I'm sure that that character will have to be wrestling through what is monstrous about me and what is human about me, and are these other things that I'm fighting going through that and to what capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. Andy, I saw you. I just want to go back to Ghost Hunters real fast. Are you thinking that they believe in the things that they're hunting, like personality monster hunters, or are you thinking that they're doing it all for show, kind of like the fake exorcism? And while you're pondering that, I'll say Jonesy Road, B horror movie cable show host. Okay.
Jonesy, are you picturing like Elvira or like Vincent Price
Or a mix up, a mashup of both of
or
them.
Rod Serling? Or who's that guy? There's a guy who does horror movie behind the scenes stuff for B movies. What's his name? I don't remember. That's gonna bother me. I gotta look it up.
Yeah, I think it's all really interesting, and the theme of two like exploiting monsters and not believing at them simultaneously is, I could understand why a monster would want to eat somebody who, you know, doesn't believe in it but makes a living out of it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's definitely cool. Yeah, I got that.
Wow, there are a lot of B horror movie hosts, and they all have really cool names. Oh, Svengoolie. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, those B horror movies are real cool.
Mona Lisa, Chili Billy. They're so many good names. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think those are really great ideas. I'll have to think about where I can put them in because I think that there's a lot to play with in all of those.
Well, and the fun thing is those three ideas you can explore the same sort of question about the monsters in your universe because you can have the people exploiting it, the people who are genuinely interested in it, the people who are just documenting it for posterity's sake and nobody believes them. I mean, there's lots of you can ask how does the media interact with monsters in this world since presumably they're secret in your setting. I'm not sure to be frank. I don't know if you're doing monsters are a secret or monsters are out in public, but how society functions with them is an interesting theme to work in since we're not using really story arcs or anything like that.
Yeah. And just to kind of, I think we're leaning towards monsters are secret.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want it to be like it could have happened 10 years ago. Uh, I almost was like, let's just do it present day, but I don't think we want to deal with COVID and we don't want to deal with, that adds a layer that I don't think is important to the story that we want to tell. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna say it could have been New York 10 years ago. Um, ooh, creepy antique store owner. I like that.
I like that too. I saw that. I saw a horror movie about that. Liz and I watch a lot of scary movies. We watch like a scary movie every day.
Look, I love horror movies, but I am a baby about them. So that's part of why I'm like, whimsy, Scooby Doo. If I got to be the keeper for this, we're gonna keep it light so that yeah, I can sleep at night. Um, but I do love the idea of a creepy antique store owner. I think that you've got the idea like what I love about an antique store too is that there are so many red herrings that there could be in an antique store. It obviously it lends itself to the ghost kind of world, but it could also be any number of other things.
Mm-hmm.
It could be an object in the store, or that could all just be, you know, um, and immediately, of course, I also go to Cabin in the Woods, where like it could be anything, whatever our players touch first might trigger something. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
Jonesy
So
said, I love cursed objects.
yes,
I would like to see an Annabelle style creepy doll. Well, I would not
like
like
the
to see
movie
that,
or
but
like the Raggedy Ann that is real.
either way, that's fine.
Ooh,
I
ooh,
mean,
they're
let
creepy.
me specify. I don't want to see that, but I want to see that.
Yeah, we can definitely. I think dolls in a lot of capacities are just creepy in general,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so they kind of are lend themselves pretty easily. um, to all of that. Cool. I'm just taking more notes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I like
as
the
I
alien
listen.
idea too. I like that. I like that you're thinking about including aliens as monsters. Are you picturing like little green men, or are you going to try to come up with something, something strange?
I was thinking more strange, but little green men might be the easiest, right? Especially since we're going through the like classic. We want them to. I don't want it to be too hard for my players to figure out what it is.
Mm.
Once they get there and get the clues. Um, there might be an element of camouflage to that. They might have like some special technology that kind of masks their appearance until the players can get rid of it. Um,
Camo
but
aliens.
yeah, I mean, well, and that's something too that I'm thinking about for my player who's a monster is, how are they going to be able to travel around to different locations
Really big
as
trench
a
coat.
monster? Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that will have to exist in the world already,
Mm.
and that I'll have to work with that player to kind of figure out. Um, So that is definitely something that I want to be cognizant of. And I think any skill or ability or boon that the players have, I also want to incorporate on the other side at some point. So,
Mm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, monsters, there will be various levels of intelligence that happen based on what monster we're fighting in any given week. Uh, but if I give camouflage to my players, I would like at some point for them to have to face that as an obstacle um, in at least one of the stories that we're dealing with. So,
Yeah, for sure.
a small town that is all monsters, like Nightbreed, where the PCs have to help them keep it secret. I love this idea. I don't know Nightbreed, so I would have to look a little bit into it. But I again, I think that feeds really well into the theme of to what level are monsters, like to what level do monsters have humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and um, how does that impact our players' decisions, right? Are they going to annihilate the whole town because they're monsters and, a monster ate my brother when I was little and it's a revenge story? Or is it like monsters deserve to live, uh, especially because they're not, harming people or doing things?
Well, and that could be an interesting situation where humans are the monsters.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
if they grow to have an attachment to this small town, they have to protect it from either the Men in Black or some militia who hates monsters, or whatever what other human elements are opposing monsters in the setting that you're creating.
Yeah. Which I love that even in a simple game like this and with a lighter story, we can still kind of touch on some of those things because, I think they're important questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a way that um, we can kind of bridge some of those subjects in a lighter way, um, without, you know, uh, without talking about politics, without talking
Mm-hmm.
about um, the things that are really troubling in our world in a lot of ways. We can use this as an avenue to explore some of those themes without having to hit anybody over the head with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the big things that we've gotten out of this is the question of what theme are you looking to explore with the story, because that's one of the benefits of doing something that's episodic like this is you can still connect things together thematically rather than plot wise. So if your big question is what is a monster, how does a monster interact with society, you can build adventures that showcase different ideas of this argument, of this point. And that provides a small connecting tissue between everything that's going on that isn't necessarily story related. So like people could still drop in and out into the story whenever they want to if there's a particular monster they want to see, but there's still that idea that the heroes are all grappling with. That's sort of a question the players all have to decide for themselves too, and that can lead to how their characters grow and how their characters change from episode to episode without having a progressive plot line that they're following, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I want to kind of leave that open for my players to discover. I will say that there is an entity that's kind of the employer of this group, let's say, similar to Myrtle in Fallout or to Powers in the Titan City games. Um, and so I think the first few episodes are going to be, his agenda and
Mm-hmm.
what, but I'm hoping that that relationship kind of evolves, and that my players can realize that uh, it's not just his opinions that matter, and that their opinions matter too. So being able to have somewhere to start and to ultimately keep going. Like if my players aren't interested in those themes, then at least I've got something to still keep the
Mm-hmm.
wheels turning, right? But if they do want to explore that kind of subject material, then they've got both an internal and an external place to create that conflict to tell that story.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea to start off with them having somebody who's sort of pointing them in the direction they need to go, because that gives the players a chance to get used to each other and to sort of figure out what their chemistry is as a group and figure out which characters interact with which characters in a certain way. And then once they've gotten into that rhythm, you can sort of take the training wheels off and leave them to their own devices and let them pursue their agendas, in addition to whatever the benefactor is asking them for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's been very helpful as a player to have that person, especially as you're entering. I think you said like some of us are return faces, so you'll know us, but some of us are new,
Mm-hmm.
and we're experienced gamers, but we are all learning each other as we're learning the game. Um, and this game is lovely in the sense that all of the characters are supposed to know each other before session one. So there's a history mechanic in it where everybody knows everybody else through their own past in some kind of way, which is great for the character. But as players, you don't have you meet in a tavern to kind of learn about everybody and give you that first hour or so of how not to step on each other's toes when we're doing stuff and what our exact play styles are. So it's a double-edged sword there, definitely, because I don't necessarily love a you meet in a tavern, but it is helpful in some ways too. So um, yeah, I'm excited for that we kind of get to start the story with at least the characters knowing a little bit more about each other and what their capabilities are, so that we don't have to do the dance of who is the healer,
Mm-hmm.
who's the guy that's going to punch things. Are there other Monster Hunter groups PC rivals? I have not added that yet. There can be for sure, and I'm writing it down. I have 7 million sticky notes, and they all say like a different. I think I told you I had the randomizer, so I have them all so that I can like eventually put them together
Mm-hmm.
to say like these are the two things, put them together. And I do have a sticky note that says rival group. I initially discarded it because it seems to be a heavy element in Fallout, and I didn't want to be too close to that. And I think that there might be like this Ghost Hunters group might be a really good like rival, so you both get there. But I don't imagine it being like episodically
Mm-hmm.
you both are racing to the same place to beat the same monster. If it were to happen, it would probably happen only in one or maybe two episodes where it just so happens that you run into them again, and you have to save. You have to consistently be saving this group who is here to film it for the Travel Channel, and
That
gets in
just
over their heads.
that reminds me of the Ghost Facers from Supernatural, and I love them so much. I want to write a
They're
one
the,
shot for that group of characters for a convention
ooh,
game so bad.
I they are who I would be in any kind of horror setting, but without the like bravado that they. That's not true. I would be the person that like dies instantly. I'd be like, "Take me, monster! I don't have time for all of this tomfoolery that's afoot."
I welcome the
Um,
sweet embrace of death.
yeah, I mean, in the zombie apocalypse, you want to be near me because I'll just throw myself out there and you'll have time to escape because I don't want to live in that world. Um,
It's fair.
but yeah, I like the idea of rivals. I'm trying to think of a clever way to incorporate that without directly robbing you of that
Well,
mechanic on the show that happened right before that.
and I think the primary difference, just thinking, is the rivals in Monster of the Week can just be rivals of circumstance rather than rivals of we're seeking the exact same thing. So, the monster hunters show up at a haunted house to deal with the ghost inside, and the ghost facers or whatever show up who are there just to document what's going on. And the challenge becomes, how do we deal with the real monster without revealing it to the public with the ghost facers footage? So there's, you know, the challenge is different than we're both looking for the same thing and we'll both kill each other if we come into conflict. It's more, I don't know. The objectives are different enough that I don't think it's immediately aping what's going on in Fallout, just because in Fallout everybody's searching for the same treasure for different reasons.
Sure. And yeah, that's a really good point too. And yeah, I can imagine at first I was thinking, this order that the Penrose Triangle would have three different groups and they're all consistently racing each other to get there, defeat the monster, come back, and like if if they do, they get a bonus. They get 12 points to Gryffindor,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like whoever gets the most points. I don't think that system works so well for this. So I like the idea that every once in a while a rival group shows up. But I also really want to focus, like you were talking about, on the community, right? That is actually being affected by whatever monster it is. So if that community doesn't exist, then I think that's a great place to put in like a rival group or an NPC faction that is also traveling through. But I also want to give reference to where we're going and where like the people that are actually there. So
Mm-hmm.
whether that's a mob of pitchforks and torches, but I mean, I guess that could be a rival group, right? That's just inexperienced and out of their heads, and
Mm-hmm. And a more of a threat
um,
to themselves than the monster.
right. So like that's a really interesting approach to a rival group that ticks off the other box of showcasing the community and what they're doing about this very real situation for them. Um, yeah, I'm putting that back on a new sticky note to try and figure out
Yeah.
how to.
And that's one very important thing to keep in mind when you're doing world building like this is, what would these groups be doing if the PCs never showed up? Like, what is their plan to solve the problem? Because people in real life don't just sit around and say, man, I hope a hero comes and solves this problem. Even if it's a bad plan, I think knowing what would happen if the heroes had never stumbled into the situation it's a great thought exercise. It helps you connect with the plot that you're coming up with, and it helps you connect with both the motivations and the abilities of your monster and the motivations and the abilities of the townspeople that they're running into.
Yeah, and I will say that the book does a really good job of kind of chatting through that with you too. They say there's different structures, but one of them is kind of like, if you don't do it, if you don't save the town, here's what will happen. Or
Mm-hmm.
like if you if you don't find this clue in time, the monster escalates, and so this is happening in the town around you. Um, and so I think that's a really cool element too. especially to someone new to
Mm-hmm.
GMing, keeping, is to think about what happens if the players are delayed, what happens if they choose something that doesn't help because you're eating time this whole time and the monster isn't just, sitting on its tail, it is
Mm-hmm.
doing things. That's why you're there. So how is it escalating and what impact does that have to not only how you're going to fight it, but what is happening in the community at large? Oh, military families. Maybe with the spouse on deployment. Okay.
Might be interesting because there's a lot of folklore about monsters that are just attached hereditarily to people. And like, what if there's a monster that is attached to this person's bloodline? Like that family's been cursed, but the member of the family who's cursed is on deployment, and the monster's messing with the family that they've left behind, like the non-blood related, like the spouse and the, well, I guess the children would be blood related, but like, I don't know, maybe the spouse and the spouse's family, or like a
Sure.
mom and the stepkids,
Oof.
and like
Are
the
all being
monsters who,
tormented by a monster because of the husband who's overseas at war
mm-hmm.
or deployed.
Yeah, and it's not even
Um,
his fault. It's like his great 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 grandfather's fault, and something like a
yeah.
banshee or something that is connected to a family situation.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. I
or the
mean,
mom's overseas.
or yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I will say, I don't know that all that much about. So I would have to do a lot of research, which is
Mm-hmm.
cool. I love learning things. Immediately, I don't know how that would work, but I would be happy to take it away. Um, I love the idea of military families. I love the idea of overseas, or uh, I think that is a really beautiful way to show um, a family apart is really interesting to me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a way to do that without the family necessarily having to be broken in some kind of way, and so I really like the idea of that. uh, I don't come from a military family, and none of my extended family is military, so I would have to. I know a bunch of people that I could chat to about it, but I want to make that a real and true element if I end up using it. So
If you want to be really rude to the players, I just thought of a real bad idea. And since none of them are here, I can talk about it further.
yeah, I love bad ideas.
So, this monster is tormenting the family that's not overseas, but they're misinterpreting it. The monster is trying to tell them that the spouse is in danger,
Oh,
but it's showing up as like a weird, crazy haunting, and it's up to the
right.
players to interpret that message for the family so that they can do whatever they need to do to rescue the person in danger.
Oh, it'll be real sad when my players kill it and then something happens to them overseas. But yeah, I mean, I also I love a twist. I love something like that, so that again, and it feeds again into that theme of, monsters doing humane
Mm-hmm.
things. Um,
Yeah, and maybe the military family member knows that they have this sort of like guardian angel, but they never told anybody in their family because they don't want to freak them out about this monster that follows them around. Because
yeah,
it's at appearances, it's very scary, like those angels that are just 1,000 wheels, or that kill you when you see them in real life. Or
yeah, for sure. I think it's a brilliant kind of play on, you can only do so many times, like the dead dad and finding the bones and salting them and burning them kind of story. So this is a really great spin on that, that gets kind of, separation check, and then you've got the element of like a monster doing a humane thing
mm-hmm.
for for a noble cause
It could be
check.
real sad though, so I would
It could
check.
be, yeah. I mean,
Might not be
yeah,
very
I
whimsical.
well, and that's part of it too, is kind of like figuring out how to make that element work.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just brainstorming here for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is, I think that's a story that I would love to be heard. So how can I tell it?
Yeah, it
And if
would be
this
kind
isn't
of
the avenue, then
it'd be kind of
sorry.
like an episode of Ghost Whisperer almost.
Oh,
If you want to take that as inspiration and you want to cry for an hour after the episode's over.
I mean, who was that? Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah, that show is so.
She's stunning.
That
It's
show
still
kills
does it
me.
still hold up? I know you're watching or you were watching it again.
I think it holds up.
Yeah, okay.
It makes me
I'll
feel
have to go
bad at
back
the
to it.
end. It's not. It's. I mean, it's a cathartic sort of show, I guess.
X-Files meets Army Wives.
Here for it.
That's the name of the episode.
It's an
Um,
alien handler who's like, my
oh,
soldier's in danger.
yeah. No, I'm all about that. Um, I'm here for it. So that was Jonesy. I think thanks Jonesy for that. Uh, Military families. Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with the modern world that isn't readily available to those of us who are running games set in alternate universes or in strange, distant fantasy timelines.
Yeah, I mean technology is another it's a like a bucket sticky note that I have, and then I have a whole bunch of things under it. Um and I would never want to step on Brian's toes with Ajax, and the episode that you guys just did last week with Born of Rage was really stunning, and I don't personally know enough about technology to pull something like that off. So, but it is a bucket that I have because we so rarely get to use cell phones in a game. We
Mm-hmm.
so rarely get to use, the conveniences that we have of modern technology as characters. So, um, I want to do service to that, without doing poltergeist.
Right.
um, so so that's definitely something that I'm thinking too, is how to add technological elements into it. um, but yeah, I'm excited for it. So
Does anybody have any other monsters or locations or people we want to see?
I'm trying to write one right now, and I can't tell if it's going to be set at a child beauty pageant or at like a dog best in show. So if anyone has ideas on one versus the other, or if I should just use both, they feel, without sounding rude, they kind of feel like they're in the same vein as of like
Yeah.
uh uh things that are competing that shouldn't really be competing. Like, let a kid be a kid and let a dog be a dog. That they don't have to be one better than the other. And it seems to have like the same types of NPCs that would be at both of those kinds of things. So I was thinking one or the other. But if we love both of those places, like, what happens when someone enters a chupacabra um, into a dog competition and it starts wreaking havoc there?
This is the ugliest dog I've ever seen in my life.
And then it eats the judge because he called him ugly. And what do you do? Yeah.
Well, that's a lot nicer than the story I was imagining for the child beauty pageant, where it's just
Well,
somebody sucking the youth out of the other competitors.
that was what I was thinking for that one. And then you've got like a witch who I was going to have her transform the children into like marionette puppets.
Oh
So like
no.
she'd steal their souls, and there's just a husk of like a doll that's left behind on them.
I saw that
And
episode
she
of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah.
Not here for
Uh,
it.
so I mean, again, yeah, Courage the Cowardly Dog, that's a really good, like, if you're asking for like what kind of level of horror am I looking for, that's probably a
Mm.
really good fit. It's animated, but it's got moments of
There's some terror in that show.
yikes. Yeah.
Cousin Fred. I played Courage the Cowardly Dog in one of Andy's cartoon games once. That was so much fun.
Uh, yeah, I appreciate that show now more as an adult than I did as a child. It was one that I could not handle as a kid. So Um, yes, update to the old World War II Gremlins. Cruise ship, I'm all about. And what I love about a cruise ship is there's no escape. There's nowhere for anyone to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta take care of it. And then it kind of gives us a chance to look at some of the aquatic scary that exists, right? It's hard to do sirens in Landlock, Ohio. But if you're out on sea, that's a little bit easier. I guess we have Erie. You could have
Nobody
a
wants to meet the
siren on Erie.
sirens of Lake Erie, though.
so
I don't
so
want to
yeah,
meet the sirens of Lake
I
Erie. Ugh.
somehow that's scarier, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
like than like the Bermuda Triangle. So yeah, I think cruise ship is a really great place to be. Stage bombs. Yeah, there's I'm an actor. I know lots of things.
You've worked
I,
with
I
the
can
Columbus Children's Theater, right? Well,
I did, and I will say they are lovely people. Stage moms, if you're out there, please don't at me. But I understand where it comes from, but I also understand what it is. So I feel like I could give a pretty good, accurate performance of a stage mom if I needed to. Stage mom slash hag, yeah, I think that could work. There's a way to make that work. The Karen of stage moms.
oh my god.
Um,
Please don't, Karen. Please don't. I'm sorry.
Late night talk DJ that knows way too much, like about the paranormal. That could be fun.
Or the players in specific.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a lot of fun with about the players. Gotcha.
Where, Karen?
Where Karen? I mean, look, if it's being written down right now, I'm writing it on my sticky notes. So
Every full moon, I grow a bob haircut and I go yell at managers at my local Target.
I'm not I'm not above doing that. So
I'll say from a scary movie perspective, if you have time, Will, and
mhm.
you're not afraid of, I mean, I know you said you were scared of scary movies, but Liz and I just watched this movie this week called The Empty Man that has been stuck with me ever since we saw it, and it's not. So the trailer for it makes it seem like it's one of the Bye Bye Man or the Slender Man movies where it's just like this dumb urban legend horror movie. This movie gets into a lot of deep existential and philosophical horror elements that I would personally as an audience member like to see tackled. Maybe not every episode, but like one episode that's like this is the existential eldritch horror episode
Sure.
or like the
Yeah.
Lovecraft episode. It felt very much like a horror movie for adults based on Lovecraftian mythos is what it felt like.
Gotcha.
And
I
nihilism.
I love Lovecraft. I think that there's definitely elements to incorporate that into there, especially um, it's so I'm looking for multiple types of monsters too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just want it to be like the big monster that's huge and has a ton of hit points and you have to kill it every single time. And what I love about Lovecraft is there's enough in there, but also it's like it's all very cloak and dagger. It's all very hidden away. It's a lot more psych than it is just a brute that you got to beat on. And so that's definitely one of the avenues that I want. Um, I was talking a little bit before stream to you about kind of like a race element for some of them, so that they've gotta beat a monster to a certain artifact or a group to a certain thing to stop the end of the world, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
so that you are hitting multiple types of content, so that our players and all of our players kind of have different skill sets too. So I want to be able to show off everybody's skills. You can't always just beat something up and have
Mm-hmm.
it go away. You've got to, and not all of our characters can beat things up. Um, so So how can we let them shine with the skills that they've got too?
Yeah, but not just the character skills, but the player skills too, because every player is approaching the problems with their own unique sort of mindset and their own creativity that's hard to harness and
Absolutely.
and roll with. But it's always rewarding when you see somebody's plan work out. At least it is for me. I don't know if that's just a helpful GM thing or if it's just GMs who aren't trying to actively kill their players all the time. But I get so excited when people's plans work out.
I think that's the best way, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're not here to when we do Fallout every Wednesday, you're not there to kill us. And we know that, which is lovely. And if it happens, if you were to kill Oliver, I think it would be because the story demanded it and because it was and we would find a really great way to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't people who go out there with the intent of putting a level 1 person in a level 7 encounter and then not giving them a way to escape or learn or grow. That's I'm very grateful that that's not what the Untold Stories project is
Yeah.
because
Well,
that wouldn't lead for a great story.
the thing is, as the GM, you could say at any time your character has a heart attack. There's no saving throw. You could just kill him if that's what you're interested in. That's it's not. It wouldn't be fun for anybody except for you, maybe if you have a weird power thing. But you could do that anytime you want. You could say rocks fall, everybody dies. There's nothing that anybody can do to stop it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I like when the
Yeah,
GM
but I
is,
think you're. Oh, sorry.
yeah. I like when the GM is working with the players to tell a good story and acknowledging that it's your job to challenge but not overwhelm them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here to tell a collaborative story, right? And as the GM, you're the person that's facilitating that. But at least as a keeper, I want to make sure that everybody's voice has, and I think you do a really amazing job with this. When I work with you and the rest that I've seen, um, we all want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard in the story. That we're all here to share with each other and with our audience. Um, and obviously the GM plays a very, very, very large role in that, but being able to share a little bit of that, I think ultimately makes for a better story too. So
One hundred
if
percent.
you're doing a nod to Lovecraft, maybe a group or family that is trying to turn themselves into monsters. Okay, yeah, I like that. I'm writing it down too.
I have had some
Again,
unfortunate convention games that wound up that way because of my own bad choices.
I mean, it's fascinating too, and it's the flip side of the theme that we've talked about, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
I keep talking about how monsters are humane or doing things. Um, where is the humanity in monsters? But and we talked about it a little bit before this, finding the monsters in humans is also just a really fascinating flip on that coin. Um, and this is literally that, right? As a group of humans who want to be something other than human.
I wonder what they have to do to become monsters. Like, do they have to sacrifice a certain number of other people, or do they need to bring people in to replace them in the experiment that the monsters are running?
I think it could be anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I Lovecraft is very open, and obviously there are rules to Lovecraft,
Right.
um, but in terms of how it works, and it maybe doesn't even have to be specifically Lovecraftian. It could just be yeah, this group needs to sacrifice X number of people, and then something changes them into you know um I even think that was part of a plot of Lovecraft Country. It was like a group was trying to do that for magical powers. But I people who love that show, I hear it's great. I only got like 2 episodes in. So I'm behind in that. But
I haven't seen it
yeah.
yet. It's on my list of shows to watch, but that is a very long list right now.
Yeah,
I've been busy.
same. So it's the two episodes I saw were real great, and then I forget. I think I got sucked into WandaVision instead, and I never went back to Lovecraft. So um,
Not gonna lie, WandaVision may have had something to do with my Fallout plotting.
oh, it was so good. Again, we're not sponsored by them, but
Right. It was Myrtle all along.
uh, I feel like I said that at the beginning. I was like, it's Myrtle, but I also said it's Gemma, and I also said it's the Scorpion.
It's everybody.
Yeah, if I've learned nothing else from all of the games that I've played, it's that I can't trust anyone. And if you're playing with me, you can't even trust me as a player. Yeah, but I think these are lots of really great ideas. I think that there's a lot of stuff that we can do with it. Um, and yeah, the good news is we've got about a month before everything starts, and nothing is, nothing will ever be set in stone. So I can always incorporate all of this really good stuff, um, and kind of I've got some time to pick at it and make sure that it's going to tell a really awesome story.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would like to share with the folks at home before we sign off?
Just in case I didn't say it, it's May 5th. May 5th starts the Order of the Penrose Triangle. We've got lots of stuff that's kind of in the background that we're hoping to share pretty soon in terms of character art and descriptions, and we may have some polls and stuff still coming your way about, do you want to see this or do you want to see that, or I think we've got a lot of ideas to kind of digest right now, and then as we need more, as Alex said, I'm new to keeping, so uh, I'm really looking for, and I'll be looking towards you guys as audience members to tell me what you want, uh, so that not only am I having a great time making it, but you're having a great time watching it. Do you want to kill a snowman? Yes.
It doesn't have to be a snowman.
Oh, so good.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Otherwise, everybody, please make sure you tune in to our new episodes of Nether War on Monday, Born of Rage on Tuesday, and our finale for Fallout on Wednesday. I'm so sad about that. And then Something Dragons on Friday. We will have some more information coming to you all very soon. I can't wait to see what Will does with Monster of the Week. I think it's gonna be great.
I can't wait either. Well, it'll be something. It'll be great. I'm really excited for it. So
It will be great. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for the ideas. We're gonna sign off, and we will see you next time.
bye bye.